Hello everyone, welcome to Poland with Ela. I'm Ela and I'll be showing you around Poland and explaining the intricacies of our culture, history and traditions. And today I'll be showing you around Lublin, one of the oldest Polish cities and a witness to many important historical events. But also a city where I grew up, so I'm really excited about this one. But before we start, make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel. Before World War II, Lublin used to be a melting pot of cultures. Lublin is the largest Polish city east of the Vistula River. It's about 170 kilometers to the southeast of Warsaw by road and almost the same distance to the Ukrainian border. It's the capital of the center of Lublin Voivodeship with a population of over 330,000 and about 70,000 university students who come here every year from Poland and abroad. This year, Lublin has been selected as the European Youth Capital. Its old town is one of Poland's national monuments. One of the events that greatly contributed to the city's development was the Polish-Lithuanian Union of Krewo in 1385. Lublin thrived as a center of trade and commerce due to its strategic location on the route between Vilnius and Krakow. The inhabitants had the privilege of free trade in the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. The Lublin Parliament session of 1569 led to the creation of a real union between the Crown of the Kingdom of Poland and the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, thus creating the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Until the partitions at the end of the 18th century, Lublin was a royal city of the Crown Kingdom of Poland. Its delegates and nobles had the right to participate in the royal election. In 1578, Lublin was chosen as the seat of the Crown Tribunal, the highest appeal court in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. And for centuries, the city had been flourishing as a center of culture and higher learning. There is a well-known legend that tells the story of unfair trials of the Lublin Tribunal, but we'll get to that later. First, let's join the crowds of tourists in Lublin's old town. Its amazing location is only one of its many attributes. Medieval urban layout and the richness of ornamentation of centuries-old burgher houses enchant tourists from Poland and abroad. The old town has more than 70% of its original buildings. The oldest monuments date back to the 13th century. You can feel the rich history of the city simply by wandering through the streets and alleys. There is a lot of places for romantic walks there too, especially on the former parish church square of St. Michael the Archangel, where you can enjoy an amazing panoramic view of the city. In Polish, it's called Plac po farze, which literally means the square left after the parish church. It's one of the oldest parts of the old town in Lublin, hiding the relics of buildings whose history reaches back as far as to the Middle Ages. Today we can admire the foundations and a bronze mock-up that represents the appearance of the church in accordance with historical sources. Leaving the old town, we'll see a silhouette of the Lublin Castle. Situated on a hill at the confluence of two rivers and surrounded by pools, it was very hard to conquer by the enemy. That's why an early medieval fortified settlement was erected there, probably as early as the 6th century. The Gothic castle was built on the hill in the first half of the 14th century by Casimir the Great, a famous Polish king who is said to have found Poland wooden and has left it made of brick. In 1569, the castle was the venue of the parliamentary session that led to the signing of the Polish-Lithuanian Union of Lublin. In the 17th century, as a result of wars, the castle was destroyed and finally demolished in the 18th century. Only a few elements from the 13th century castle remain to this day. Among them, the Holy Trinity Chapel. It's one of the most popular places to visit in Lublin because of the Ruthenian-Byzantine paintings decorating the interiors. These were ordered by King Władysław Jagiełło in the first half of the 15th century. The paintings depicting religious themes in the spirit of the Orthodox Church adorn the walls of the Roman Catholic Church. which creates a unique symbol of coexistence of Eastern and Western European cultures. Among the images of saints and Bible scenes, you can notice frescoes depicting Władysław Jagiełło himself. These are the only images of the king created in his lifetime. In 2015, the Holy Trinity Chapel was honored with the European Heritage label. But the castle itself, apart from an amazing war record, holds a very dark and painful history. Rebuilt in the New English Gothic Revival style in the 1820s, throughout the partitions it served as a Tsarist prison, where mainly the participants of the Polish struggles for independence were held, tortured, and executed. Then, during World War II and the German occupation of Poland, the Nazis held over 40,000 people there, mainly the members of the Polish underground resistance movement. They were held in inhumane conditions. The cells were overcrowded. Diseases were spreading, hunger prevailed. The prisoners were subjected to constant harassment from the German crew. Many convicted were murdered or lost their health during brutal interrogations and tortures that were carried out. A large part of these prisoners died in executions and death camps. On July 22, 1944, right before leaving Lublin, the Nazis murdered 300 prisoners of the Lublin Castle. The end of World War II did not end the tragedy. After the entrance of the Soviet troops, the Lublin Castle became the main prison in Poland. The conditions were comparable to those that prevailed during the German occupation. The equipment, like the straw mattresses and the torture tools, were the same ones that Germans used during World War II. According to the memoirs of prisoners, when they were arrested, the cells were still wet from the blood of the victims of the execution of 22nd of July. Many of them who were previously imprisoned by the Germans were now once again put in the castle prison together with the criminals. Some of them had to share cells with their torturers from the war. Research suggests that in the years 1944-1954, up to 35,000 Poles who opposed the communist enslavement were imprisoned there. 515 death sentences were issued against the prisoners of the castle, from which 180 people were killed in the prison. The last murder there took place on 12th of January 1954. After liquidation of the prison in 1954 and renovation works, the castle was intended for cultural purposes. From 1957, it is the headquarters of the Lublin Museum. This brutal history of the communist prison was concealed and censored by the authorities until 1989. Even today, some of the visitors who come to the Lublin Castle and visit the castle tower say that they can still feel the atmosphere of horror of the place. Apart from the very real reminders of the human viciousness, there is also some legendary objects within the castle that remind us about human greed and injustice. The most famous of them is the so-called Devil's Paw, or in Polish, Czarcia Łapa. According to a legend, in 1637 a trial of a widow and a wealthy magnate was taking place before the Lublin tribunal. The justice was on the side of the widow, but the magnate was rich and used his money to obtain a verdict favorable for him and unfair in principle. Upon hearing the verdict, the distraught woman shouted that the devils would judge better than the judges. The widow's complaints, as is well known, were heard both in heavens and in hell. At midnight, Satans gathered in the tribunal. Very quickly they've come to a conclusion and announced the verdict, condemning the magnate. Witnessing this decision of the devils, Christ from the tribunal cross, which was placed in the courtroom to remind the parties of the need to testify to the truth and the judges of their obligation to conduct fair judgments, turned his head and wept heavily over human wickedness, worse than Satan's. The presiding judge, to commemorate that this devilish trial was taking place in Lublin, placed his paw on a big oak table and left a scorched mark on it. It is to be seen up till this day in the National Museum of the Lublin Castle. The next day, the news about the knight's visit to the tribunal spread like wildfire throughout Lublin, gathering scared but curious townspeople in the market square. The unjust deputies broke their legs while rushing to the next hearing. Interpreting this sign as a divine act, the miraculous crucifix was moved, assisted by priests, to the collegiate church of St. Michael the Archangel. When after 200 years the collegiate church was scheduled for demolition, the crucifix was moved to the cathedral, where it remains to this day, in the quiet chapel of the Holy Sacrament, reminding the believers of the ancient miracle. The Archcathedral Church of St. John the Baptist and John the Evangelist is also a worth sight to visit. It was built in the years 1586-1604, and after the damage caused by World War II, it has been rebuilt to the form we can see today. It is worth going inside to get a closer look at the illusionistic polychromes and grand furnishings of the church. In the presbytery, there is a 17th century altar made of black Lebanese pear, now in its original ebony color. There are also golden sculptures of saints and two Baroque paintings, the Last Supper and the Feast of Herod. In the side altar of the left nave, we can admire the icon of the crying Virgin Mary. On July 3, 1949, the image cried with bloody tears that were collected and placed in one of the stones in the crown of Mary. One more church in Lublin which is worth mentioning is St. Stanisław's Basilica and the Dominican Monastery, dating back to the 14th century. The temple was expanded several times. The largest reconstruction took place after the fire in 1575. The buildings were then given the features of the Lublin Renaissance style. According to the monastery tradition, the Union of Lublin was signed in the refectory in 1569. After the conclusion of the union, a solemn thanksgiving service took place in the church. For several centuries, the Lublin Dominicans were in possession of the largest relics of the Holy Cross in the world, which were stolen in 1991 and have not been found to this day. Both the church with the monastery and the treasury are open to public. When talking about Lublin, it's impossible not to mention the Jewish population that used to live there. Before World War II, there were about 43,000 Jewish people living in Lublin, which amounted to about 35% of the city's population. Jewish culture could develop freely for centuries there, and the flourishing Hebrew sciences caused the city to be called the Jerusalem of Poland and even the Jewish Oxford. As a result of the extermination of the Jewish nation carried out by the German Nazis, as well as the demolition of the whole Jewish district, synagogues and cemeteries, only a few buildings remain today as a testament to the Jewish people who lived in Lublin. If you want me to show you around those places, let me know in the comments. There is so much more I'd like to show you in the city of Lublin. For example, a wonderful open-air museum of the villages of the Lublin region, a mortifying but so necessary to see concentration camp of Majdanek, a botanical garden, some really nice places to relax, enjoy the regional food and drinks, and watch some regional folklore performances and art. But I'll just have to do it another time. For now, make sure you like this video, you subscribe, and let me know in the comments what other cities you'd like me to show you. And take care!